To me, creativity is combining things that haven't been combined before in new ways, telling stories in new ways. A lot of our storylines probably go back to the cave, sitting around the fire. To get paid for telling a story of a product or a company or something beneficial and useful was really kind of cool. But we've evolved and we can tell things differently. I was born at the confluence of the great Mississippi and Missouri rivers in St. Charles, Missouri. My dad was a specialist in internal medicine, so he's one of the first internists in St. Louis County, and then spent almost a decade at the Mayo Clinic, which was like the happening thing in those days of new technology, new techniques of relating to patients, etc. My mother was an opera singer. She was a coloratura soprano. If I have any talent for marketing, that probably came from my mother as well. She wanted to pick a small town near a major cultural center that had a symphony orchestra and an opera and a ballet, and then finally moved to San Jose, California. She happened to pick what would remain the fastest growing city in the US from the 40s all the way through the 21st century. So basically, Silicon Valley. She always brought music into the house. I have 3 older brothers. They all played one kind of musical instrument or another. I inherited the cello from my oldest brother. Actually went off to music school on a scholarship to study the cello. They discovered this brand new music school called Interlochen. And so that's how I spent the next 2 years of high school. After Interlochen, I went to USC. They had an incredible music staff. The head of the cello department was Gregor Piatigorsky. The other string teacher was Jascha Heifetz. I wasn't that good a cellist, but I wrote a satirical essay for some contest they were having, and I won it. And they gave me a scholarship. So I went for that. What really inspired me, and the first time I experienced this in my life, was Volkswagen advertising from Doyle Dane Bernbach. And I specifically recall the Think Small ad put advertising on my radar as something to aspire to.
Have you ever wondered how the man who drives a snowplow drives to the snowplow? This one drives a Volkswagen. So you can stop wondering.
So when I graduated from USC, I married my high school sweetheart, who was a very talented violinist who had stayed in Michigan, gone to the University of Michigan, got back there, and I needed a job. My sister-in-law had gotten a job as a copywriter working for one of the big car agencies, Darcy McManus Macias. And I wound up working on a lot of industrial stuff, not the glitzy car accounts, but Bendix, aerospace. But I wanted to get back to the West Coast, so we moved back to LA. The only job I could find right off the bat was working in the PR department of Beneficial Insurance Group. After that, I was trying to get into one of the major agencies where I could learn something, and I finally got a job with Clinton E. Frank, which is the agency that launched Toyota in the US.
I've been looking at all the new cars, and I'm still looking. Toyota, what do you got?
And we did so much television that you could do experimental spots and throw them away. I had been doing ads for this classical music station, KFAC radio in Los Angeles, And I wrote one particular ad that said how classical music changed my life. And it was a typical send-up of the before and after ad. And it was funny copy. And Jay Chiat took note of that and got me in for an interview. And he said, you know, the measure of a good copywriter is where I find myself reading something that I don't care about, but I'm reading it anyway. Jay gave me a job at Chiat Day, and after a couple years there, I was working on Pioneer and a bunch of other stuff.
Pioneer, we bring it back alive.
Chiat Day winds up with the Apple account, and Jay meets Steve Jobs, and they like each other. They're both kind of abrasive personalities. They're both impatient with the people around them. They're both perfectionists, and they clicked in a really big time way. And he introduces me to Steve Jobs as this copywriter with potential who kind of knew something about computers, because I had had all this technical background. You know, we were off and running.
Computers?
But we got in trouble very rapidly because Jobs kept asking for more, more, more. And the Apple account went from 10 million to 100 million in 1 year. And we didn't have the capacity in San Francisco. So I moved from San Francisco down to Los Angeles and began the whole Apple journey of building a team under Lee Cloud. That's where we brought in Penny Kapasus and Brent Thomas and a number of other talented people to create all sorts of directions for Apple as they kind of evolved. And of course, the big event was the introduction of the Macintosh computer. Steve Jobs said, I want to stop the world in its tracks with the introduction of Macintosh. And so that's how we got to the 1984 commercial.
A garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of a contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
After the big stop them in their tracks commercial, we understood, and Jobs understood, that this would raise a lot of questions about what Macintosh was like and what it was for. And that's why he wanted to do a 20-page explanatory insert about the Macintosh. But he also wanted demonstration commercials, very simple, that would show the difference between a Macintosh and a regular personal computer.
This is a highly sophisticated business computer. And to use it, all you have to do is learn this. This is Macintosh from Apple, also a highly sophisticated business computer, and to use it, all you have to do is learn this. Now, you decide which one is more sophisticated. Macintosh, the computer for the rest of us.
After all this happened, a number of things went down. Steve Jobs, his responsibilities for the whole corporation were diminished by the board. And Jobs said, I founded this company with Steve Wozniak. This is my company. Fuck you guys. How dare you? And he quit and went off to found Next. Meanwhile, there's not much for me to do at Chiat Day. And I did get to work on Porsche briefly. We pitched Porsche and won that. But Tracy Locke came along and said, we want to open an office in LA with Taco Bell as the main account. And actually, fast food was quite different from anything I had worked on before. And so I accepted their generous offer to open an office in LA. And a lot of people from Chiat Day followed me over there. And we won the Princess Cruises account, and that was kind of fun. and I think a couple other small pieces of business. So it was a broader set of experience. But meanwhile, Apple's board had decided to declare a pitch between BBDO and Chiat Day. And BBDO won the business. And BBDO calls me up because they didn't know anything about computers. They had been all consumer goods. Well, they had no one who could write copy for that kind of product.
And how did they do this?
They did it on their own system.
So I went to BBDO and we opened an office in Los Angeles. We called our operation on Apple BBDO slightly further west. But we started winning business. Dodge, which was a big account, and we did some national Dodge work, and we got Sizzler, and ultimately took over all of BBDO West Coast operations.
After you see the movie, you may want to pick up the book.
But meanwhile, Apple continued to decrease their budget and the quality of what they were asking for in the work. And you could kind of see Apple potentially going out of business. And at this point, as they were headed south, I was offered a job on IBM by Ogilvy and Mather. And they had won a consolidated IBM account where they had something like 44 divisions of IBM, and they needed more technical people who could understand not only personal computers, that was nothing compared to the mainframes, the mini computers, the business systems.
There are going to be changes, dramatic changes. When the dust settles, this group will be the only one left standing.
So I took the job at Ogilvy, which involved moving to New York, and that turned out to be a very rewarding experience. I got to meet David Ogilvy, which was a tremendous honor.
And inside, there's a message, and I'm going to read it to you. Listen. If each of us has someone smaller than we are, we shall become a company of dwarfs. But if each of us has someone bigger than we are, we shall become a company of giants.
Bill Hamilton was there, Rick Boyko was there, Charlotte Beers, who is quite a character from Texas, and Shelley Lazarus. And I was able to build a team with Chris Wall, Susan Westra, a lot of the people who had worked on Apple with me at BBDO. And we kind of built out the IBM group to fulfill their needs, and came up with the concept of e-business as a way of capturing the whole movement of everything to the internet.
Let's change the rules.
Shake things up.
What if it was all happening in real time?
Hey, you behind the glass.
This is room 11B, right?
What are you guys doing? Hey, everybody, I'm Bob, and I'm stupid.
Please stay on the line.
Take 31.
And you've got a whole lot of stressed out, overworked, underpaid, underappreciated human beings who just want the whole thing to make sense by the time they get to the office. That's gonna take some serious software.
What is a petaflop? Let's build
a smarter
planet.
Any agency depends on new business. It's kind of the lifeblood, because it keeps the creative people interested in new challenges. That's the thing. Every creative person has attention deficit disorder. So it's not enough to do the next great campaign for the thing you did a great campaign for last year. You want a new challenge. So we pitched Motorola.
Hello, Moto.
The device, formerly known as a cell photo.
And then we pitched Kodak.
This place is huge.
This way, that's right.
Wow, this place is big.
Uh-huh.
So how many pictures are here?
Just about all of them.
Smile. I am.
And I'm very proud of the work we did for Dove on the body image stuff. That was a lovely body of work that had many contributors from different offices. Partnering with Shelley on the worldwide agency, that was a really productive partnership in terms of new business and in terms of the international network. It was kind of a great experience and really brought some talent out of Ogilvy that was hidden in the system. I guess what has really impressed me the most are people of great talent and tremendous success who retain a level of kindness and willingness to pass it on.
We help our people make the best of their talents. We devote an awful lot of our top-level time to training them. Like in a great teaching hospital.
There's still a need for storytelling. It's kind of a fundamental human thing. And I think if you can figure that out, there's going to be kind of a new way of communicating about products and about mythologies than we have today. What I never dreamed of when we did 1984, because that was based on the idea that if people have good information, they cannot become drones. If people have access to the truth, they can't be controlled. And yet, the exact opposite happened. I don't think we've had weirder beliefs since the Salem witch trial or the Middle Ages. I mean, it's just shocking. And people cannot find the truth. They don't trust the truth when they do find it.